Kia ora, g'day, welcome back once again here with another reaction to Mr. Big Phil Campion on the Team House show, Team House podcast. So I think this is episode 5 or 6 for me for this one. So anyway, let's jump back in.
Yeah. Wow, man. So secured the hostages, and from there, what was the extraction like?
So we went into like a reorg, and I was on the reorg. I was carrying a little mini-me, so I've got my bipod. So I ended up sort of like, they've said to me, right, you take from 12 through 10 or whatever, and I'm facing out in this direction. And I remember there's a few things on fire and bits and pieces, and I thought to myself, I'll have a cup of tea now. Do you know what I mean? The old sergeant major come around and he kicked the back of my foot. And he goes, you can have a brew if you want. And I had this thing where I was sort of like laid in a depression in the floor, and I could make it. I had the gun in my shoulder here, and I'm holding on like that, and I can see in front of me, and I'm sort of like with my other hand, I've got me sort of like vest on. I'll get my water bottle out. I'll get my mug out. I'll get the stove out. Light the stove with me lighter. Put the mug on it. Fill the mug. Put the water away. Stick everything away. The water's boiling away nicely, and then you know those sachets you get, the 3-in-1s. I've tipped that in, and I'm stirring it away, and before you know, I've got a lovely cup of tea. So. I put everything away, and I'm sat there with my cup of tea behind my gun, and I'm drinking away. And my mate kicks me foot. He's taking sort of 11 through 9 because we're overlapping, and he's kicked me on the foot. And I look round, and I'm like, "Fuck off, make your own tea." Like, do you know what I mean? And he's like, "No." Then he starts pointing his thumb down like that, frantically going like that. So as I look up, where we've gone completely silent in the village while people are cutting around doing their bits and pieces, he's basically, the enemy have decided, what's left of the enemy have decided, well, they've gone, so they're coming back into the village. There's a few of them coming, like, do you know what I mean? So on the guys next to me lead, we've literally sort of like waited for them to get within proper range that we're not going to miss, and we've opened up on them. And we've proper sent them back into the village, like sent them back out into the bushes. You know, there's a lot of gunfire going on now because everyone's seen what's going on, and there's a bit more exchanging. Anyway, I've done all this left-handed. I've not put my cup of tea down once, so I've actually been holding a cup of tea while I'm fighting away, like, you know. And I managed to do it without spilling my tea. And I was never going to say anything about this at all, but they made a TV program on Channel 5, and one of the lads. Colin, I can say Colin's name because he was on that program. Colin told them about it. Colin told the TV people about it. I was never going to say nothing because it was a bit sort of like, I shouldn't have been having a cup of tea anyway, to be honest. Although, why not? I don't know, because they knew we were there. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, to still carry on in the fight and not drop any, not spill it.
I'm wondering if he means Colin McLaughlin, or there's another Colin that I worked with as well in the private sector from X22, another really good dude. So I wonder if he means Colin McLaughlin, who's been out. He's quite public out in the on social media, and he's done a whole bunch of interviews. Good dude. Or if it's another Colin. It's 2 Collins that I know of from the regiment. Obviously, there'll be more than that, but there's 2 that I know of, and just wondering if it's one of those ones that I know that mentioned Big Phil and his cup of tea. Yeah, I wouldn't have been having a cup of tea if it was me. But yeah, that's one of the beauties of the unit. You get asked that question, you know, everybody's different in there. There's different personalities. And yeah, somebody like Big Phil, he is happy to have a cup of tea.
I was quite proud of that, to be honest, but I shouldn't have been doing it. But there you go.
You know, it's a true testament to the cultural differences between our militaries,
yeah.
Because for U.S. forces, it would have just been a tin of Copenhagen and a big fatty in the lip, you know, of tobacco.
No. A cup of tea for me. I even had my little finger poking.
Yeah, nice. I mean? It was proper.
Yeah.
Was it one lump or 2?
So it was 3-in-1 sachet, so it would have been 1 lump.
Oh, so it's like the creamer,
the creamer, the tea. They had a tea powder and not sugar in the same thing. So it tasted like tea. I'll tell you what, after having a bit of a punch up, it was better than nothing. I'm going to tell you that. Do you know what I mean?
That's amazing. Do you mind telling us a little bit and, speak to this to your level of comfort, obviously, but what kind of weapon systems were you guys on? And obviously, like we all see the MP5s for like the CQB or the old school. For more of these village clearing ops or things like this.
This is interesting, eh? Is this? Well, I shouldn't say it. It seems I'm not sure if it's an American thing or what, but the cigars and I don't know if that's whiskey or if that's wine. I don't know. But who is it? The Anti-Hero podcast, cigars. I think they have alcohol in there sometimes. Got these guys. Well, one of them at least anyway, with the cigars and then the alcohol. I don't think I've seen Sean Ryan do any of that. Obviously, he's got the alcohol and stuff in the background of the screenshot and the area that he's got set up for the interviews that he does. But interesting. Ryan Fugit didn't. I haven't seen him with any of that. I haven't been back to his channel for a little bit, so maybe he has. But he doesn't strike me as the type that's puffing away on a cigar and chucking back some shots during his interviews.
Did you guys have
in my day, the guys, I had a Minimi, which was, it was an airborne Minimi, so it had the folding stock and a short barrel. So it was more than manoeuvrable in the village. The guys had M4s, just short, stubby M4s with normal mags on them, and some would have the undersling 203s on them. You'd have, all manner of grenades, stun grenades, smoke grenades, the full suite. There were 66s, the old pull out, stick on the shoulder, pop the range. 66s were being launched in there. Yeah, I mean, we went heavy handed because, A, we knew we were likely to be outnumbered, but B, we didn't know if this thing was going to go on for a while. We could have ended up having to, clearing one village and then getting attacked by another. Do you know what I mean? So you could have ended up fighting for. So, I took a lot of ammunition on that job. I took probably 6 bags of Minimi, a full complement of magazines. I had my pistol with me, which had a full complement of magazines. I had a 66. I had a few grenades. I didn't have no room for no warm kit. I mean, how I got my cup of tea in there was a miracle. Like, do you know what I mean? So we went we went ammunition heavy as opposed to, because we knew if we did get stuck overnight, they could always overfly it and drop us a load of stuff if we needed it. Like, do you know what I mean? So the priority was to be on the ground with enough ammunition to fight for as long as it took. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, that's what we did.
What kind of pistols were you guys using at that time?
The SIGs.
The SIGs.
You said the two sixes, yeah. I actually prefer them to the Glocks, to be honest. But they ran with the Glocks in the end as the army ran with the Glocks. So I think they might still use the SIG. I don't know. I'm not there anymore. So, but the SIG was a nice pistol. The SIG. It felt, it was easy to use. It was safe. It was a great piece of kit.
Yeah, I remember first learning with the SIG in NZ on our CQB, and I really liked it. It was a weighty. Well, the ones that we had, the 226s, it was a weighty pistol, but I really liked it for learning and stuff. And then the Glocks came out, but I didn't mind the Glocks either. We had, I forget the bloody pistol type, an H&K type pistol when I was in Australia in the regiment, and those are all right. But I had missed the SIG, and no, I wasn't using the Glock in NZ. I used the Glock much later on, actually. But yeah, I did miss the 226. Took a little bit for me anyway to get used to the pistol system that we were using in the Australian regiment at the time. So it's cool to hear him talk about it, that he preferred it. I suppose you start on something and you get used to it. You become more familiar with it and comfortable with it. Single action, double action, and it's just one of those things. Maybe everybody's the same, or maybe people just don't care and they can just switch to whatever. But I definitely did prefer the SIG when I was training and learning with it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Now, did you guys obviously this is a large operation for a small unit, and I don't know if you're partnering with the paras. Did you guys also carry on occasion like squad weapons, or did you rely more on like the paras?
Yeah, we took a mortar base plate in with us. So at the very end, I remember one of the last things we did, we mortared like 360 around the place just to try and deter anybody else coming at the village. I mean, that mortar guy must have killed more people than COVID, because he just mortared everywhere he went. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was just mortars out for about an hour, like ding, 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 ding. Out he was going. He sent loads out. So we had, Yeah, we could call on anything. I mean, if you needed 50 cal, you get 50 cal. If you needed a grenade thrower, you'd get a grenade thrower. If you needed, something bigger, if you needed a javelin, if you needed a Milan, it was in my day. If you needed something big, you'd get something big. It wasn't, and if there was something out there that you wanted, you'd get trained up on it. You go and get it. Like, do you know what I mean? So, if you needed a SAM or a whatever, you know what I mean? You'd get it. So it wasn't. There was no restrictions on that sort of stuff. If it warranted it, it would be got, and you'd use it. And you'd learn how to use it. If you didn't know how to use it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, Phil, let's hear, what was the rest of your career like in the SAS and the Army?
Right. So that was that was sort of like my swan song. I remember the next thing I did after that was an exercise somewhere where we did a hostage, and I fell out of love with it a little bit because that was such an intense operation, and at that time, that was 2000. Obviously, 2001 in September, things changed. But after that operation in particular, that was September, that was a year before the Twin Towers fell. Two things happened. A friend of mine got killed, a very good friend of mine who was actually in the village with me. And he was killed in a way that, and I don't want to harp on about this because it might upset people that still know him, but he was killed in a road traffic accident, and it was completely unnecessary, and it really, really upset me. I can deal with, we lost Brad in the village. He died fighting. When they recovered his weapon, there was an empty 203 smoking shell and half a magazine. He went out doing the job he loved. He went out trooper, he was fighting. He was a warrior. The man was an absolute legend. My other mate died in the centre console of a car by someone who was driving it too fast, who shouldn't have been driving it how he was driving it. It really messed me up a little bit. It hurt me. It hurt me. And I took to the drink, and then, I probably punched a few too many people and got in a few too many rows, and I started falling out with the authorities a little bit on camp, and it got to the stage where the sergeant major wasn't going to stand up for me anymore, and he offered me, he said, look, you can go back to your unit, or you can get out, or he said there's not many options here for you at the moment. So I said, well, I'll just get out, and I bit me bullet. I said, look, I'll pay my way out. I'll get out this week if I can, and I put my paperwork in, and I paid me money, and I got out, and that was me, really. And I remember on my final interview, the CO at the time was away, and the 2IC didn't know really the full picture of what was going on. And he said, did I fancy going to the reserve battalion, the reserve regiment for a call-off period? And I just said no, point blank. I didn't want to do that. I said no, because at the time, you really were, and it sounds a bit corny, and it's in that film, Who Does You? You were SAS or nothing. That's all I wanted to be. And if I couldn't be that, I didn't want to be anything else. Do you know what I mean? And I didn't want to be a reservist. I didn't want to do anything else. I just wanted to get out, and I got out. I got out on the 1st of September, 2001, and on the 9th, I was driving down to where I was living, and I heard on the radio what happened, and I'm like, oh, wow, Jesus, you know what I mean? And I couldn't even go straight back in because I'd paid my way out. Those were the rules. I think you couldn't just go straight back in. So I'm thinking to myself, right, what am I going to do? Like, you know what I mean? So, my first port of call was to make a few phone calls, and before I knew it, I was in Afghanistan myself anyway, working on the civvy contracting circuit. So, yeah, flash to bang time, turnaround time for me. I ran out of money. I ran out of money, and I went down to the I went down to the job centre to get a loan. I had no money coming in at all. There was no work for me in the UK, and I remember I had to fill a form out for this money, and I had to get a job interview. They had no job interviews for me, and the only thing I was remember, I had no qualifications at school. None of the stuff I did in the military had any qualifications that were relevant to civvies. And
man, that's right. I never knew that. That sucks. That's sad. It makes more sense now why I've heard Jay Cal talk about his time. He didn't have any skills to go out in Civvy Street, or why he felt like he didn't have any skills to go out in Civvy Street and get a job. Here's Phil with his service. And he got up to some mischief, and like I said, he probably got into a few too many rows and punched a few too many people that he shouldn't have, and his options became limited for him. But man, my experience when I was going through that dark place of just feeling worthless, feeling like not having a purpose anymore, it really forced me to take stock of and to remember who I was when I wanted to get something, when I wanted to do something, what I was like, what my mindset was like, how positive I was, regardless of the adversity or the setbacks or the challenges that were in front of me. highlighted to me the confidence that I gained in terms of being able to communicate, communicate, question, lead when I needed to, or when I felt that something wasn't right. It helped me highlight, as I reflected, my ability to take on board a heck of a lot of information I felt in a short period of time and to be able to apply it. Academically, I've still never been really strong at that because I fall off to sleep reading books. So, and I sort of tend to, I struggle to retain it. But hearing Phil, why am I sharing all of that? Just listening to Phil and just not saying that he was in a dark place, but getting to that point where you're needing to go and sign up to get some money because there's no money coming in. I think for me, part of it has also been, again, a bit of pride and not wanting to go to a Centrelink or not wanting to go to a WINS and sign up and say, hey, I need some money or I need to go into a benefit because I can't get a job. I've just, right or wrong, I just haven't done that. And even though I've always paid tax, regardless of where I've been, and people might say, well, you pay tax, that's what it's for, go and get some help if you need it. But we've been, like my family and I, we've been blessed, man. And so I just know that there are other people out there that are in a worse position than me and my family. And those that need a bit more or that need that help, then, that's why I've gladly always paid tax, plus the fact that you can't avoid paying tax anyway. But, that's sad to hear. That's why I bring that up. It's sad to hear that Phil was in that state, or anybody that might be in that state. And in particular, anybody that's come from an SF background, man, you've got so many skills. You just may not realize them yet, or maybe you do. But there are so many skills that you have, in my opinion, my experience, that translate into so many different areas. Because, why do I say that? Because I've been blessed and fortunate to work in a whole bunch of different areas, from senior leadership roles to boots on the ground to completely different industries that I had absolutely zero experience in working in until I got there. And I found that I thrived in each of those environments. I felt like I did really well. But yeah, it just wasn't as fulfilling as the work within the unit.
They told me I had to go for a job interview as a traffic marshal for schools, a lollipop man, we called him. That was going to be my life. I'm like, I can't have this. And so I'm going to be really sort of like 9/11, although it didn't do the world a favour, actually at that time done me a massive favour because it meant that there was somewhere I could go and find some work. And that's really awful, sort of like bad. And I realised that. But, when your back's pushed against the wall, you've got to earn your money where you can. Do you know what I mean? So, for me, it was a no-brainer. I had to get out there. And I actually wanted to go out there because, I believed strongly. I was sickened by what I saw in America. I wanted to go and do something against it. I knew I couldn't probably join up straight away again. So I thought, right, the best thing I can do is get myself out there as a contractor and actually start trying to do some good and aid the people that are in a fighting position. Do you know what I mean? So that my mind was made up. I was going, and that was it. Simple.
Man, I'm gonna pause this here. Lots to digest and stuff in there for me anyway. In particular, in and around that period of time, I think for me it was a blessing as well. At the same time, when I transitioned out, when I decided to leave the unit, and that was cooking off, and I had friends that were working there, and so I was able to sort of step into that. I never experienced that moment or that period of time similar to Phil, whereby he got out and he wasn't making any money and he had to go and sign up for whatever it was that he needed to do. I got out at a time where I'd actually already secured work in the private sector before I left and before I got out of the unit. So I sort of got out and then naturally progressed and flowed into some work and into an environment that I was already comfortable and familiar with. And to be honest, I was looking forward to. And the fact that we were getting paid more was just like a cherry on the top, was just a bonus. But a lot to take in there. I'm just all blown away in terms of what Phil mentioned by his and Jay's, their thoughts. Maybe it's changed now because maybe they've had time to look back and go, man, yeah, I've got all these skills that can be applied here, there, and in a whole bunch of places. But yeah, a little sad personally, for Phil, that he was not where he is now, because I know he's in a good space now, but for where he must have been and how he was feeling about the skills that he felt he didn't have. But anyway, if you made it this far, thank you very much for your time listening to me ramble on again. But yeah, as always, the message is the same. Any difficulties, challenges that you may be going through, feeling like that you don't have the skills or knowledge or experience to be able to go in and do things or try other things, man, just know that you do. Keep turning up, keep staying in the fight, put one foot in front of the other, take one day at a time. Know that the sun will shine again and better days are ahead, and that if we want something bad enough, everything's hard until it becomes easy. But if we want something bad enough, we'll put in the time, effort, and energy to learn how to do it. And all I can say is good things will happen when we do that. When we put in the work, when we stay consistent, when we're disciplined, and we repeat that process, good things will happen. So anyway, as always, go always a little further. Remember, who dares wins and who cares wins. And until the next video, there's a big mana wave coming from me to you, filled with my aroha, respect, appreciation, and gratitude for you all.